7:07 on a Wednesday night, the 15th of October 2025. You are looking at the second stack with one ignored of course, the dumbbell planetary Messier 27, which is getting pretty much at its point of culmination. However, the thing you should be aware of is that this is a 60-second exposure. I did, as mentioned in the previous video, start playing around with the right ascension error value. And I figured out basically what that value does is it projects out over a 24-hour period, divides the value, which is something like 680,000, by the number of minutes and seconds. And basically, the stepper resolution on a Losman VG11 mount is about 3 arc seconds. So if something shifts by 3 arc seconds, it makes the shift 2. If it shifts less than that, which of course it will do, it will wait, and the image stacking software or your very own eye will keep track of it. What we're seeing here is an astonishing view of the dumbbell planetary. I'm going to push it up to maximum magnification. This is 300x. If we go back to 240, which is 80% e-zoom, that's where we're using all the pixels to gather light with the highest resolution. The scope, however, is only capable of resolving down to 0.8 arc seconds, and you can see the stars are a little bloated, but the focus must be good because we're getting stacks at a 1-minute exposure time. So this is 240x, and that is roughly the magnification I use maximum unless it's a planet. If we go back to 50% e-zoom, we're now operating at 150x. So 100% e-zoom is 300, 240 is at 80, and 150 is at 50% e-zoom. And that'll be our final view for the dumbbell planetary. Remember, this is a 1-minute exposure time with some adjustments. The histogram, but the histogram at 1-minute exposure times has tremendous flexibility. So there we go. We're going to be off and running to the 7300 to 7400 NGC series this evening at 10 seconds exposure, and I will be selecting studies of interest, what I call adventitious studies in that range. By the way, for comparison, this is a 10-second exposure at 150x. Okay, we're 3 minutes into this video, having surveyed the dumbbell and getting things laid out. This is NGC7300, Galaxy and Pegasus. It's also NGC7304, so I think we'll skip that one. It's magnitude 12.6, which is why I selected it. 1.5 by 1.1 arc minute spiral with a lowercase bc, so don't expect a particularly bright core. We'll push it up to 150x and see if we can make it out anywhere in the field, shifting things around. There's our galaxy. I did synchronize to the dumbbell, so it should have ended up towards the middle of the field. We're right. It's 1.5 by 1.1 arc minute, as I said, 168 million light years distant. It's probably about 75,000 light years in diameter, with a right ascension of 22, 31, 32, and a declination of plus 30 degrees, 57 minutes, 21 seconds. I am holding up the Gemini 2 hand controller. Hopefully, my voice will remain relatively moderate, even though I'm sitting outside the observatory at this time. Okay, what we should be seeing here is NGC 7315. It's another Galaxy and Pegasus, magnitude 12.5. It's a face-on lenticular spiral. 1.6 by 1.6 arc minutes in size. 288 million light years distant means it's probably about as large as the Andromeda Galaxy, which, by the way, probably will condense quite significantly as more star formation occurs. So this is fairly large for a lenticular. There it is on the screen. We are not getting very good alignment. I think I may resynchronize the scope Here's our face on galaxy right there. So it's at 22 hours, 35 minutes, 31 seconds with a declination of plus 34 degrees, 48 minutes, 11 seconds. And we've had 8 successful stacks without a single one being ignored since I adjusted the RA error function parameter. Okay, we're getting a little bit of a zoomed in view right now of NGC7300-7399. I just leaned over, moved the mouse around. We'll see if it affects the synchronization of the star fields. It's a galaxy in Pegasus, 12.5 magnitude, 1.6 by 1.6, lenticular spiral, 288 million light years distant. This was the one we viewed previously, and now I've had to do a little bit of shifting. 22, 35, 31 with a declination of plus 34 degrees, 48 minutes, 11 seconds. And there is our view of NGC7315 once again. Okay, so what we have here is the NGC7320 Galaxy group in Pegasus. Magnitude 12.6 is 7320 at 2.3 by 1.4 arc minutes. Spiral with a lowercase c with some disturbance to it. 38 million light years distant, quite small, probably somewhere around 25,000 light years in diameter. It's at right ascension 22 hours, 36 minutes, 3 seconds, and a declination of plus 33 degrees, 56 minutes, and 54 seconds. Let's go on to the next one. NGC7320A is in the same group. It's the faintest, magnitude 16, but since it's a lenticular spiral, and that's probably photographic magnitude, it's magnitude 15. 0.4 by 0.2 arc minutes, no distance sighted. RA 223632 with a declination of plus 33 degrees, 47 minutes, 44 seconds. As it turned out, NGC 7320 had an A, and I'm going to push it to 150 to see if we can't turn them up. Having a hard time of it. The sky is, that's now 724, so we're pretty much in the sky dark area. I'm not seeing the galaxy. I have to check it out tomorrow, but when I'm doing editing, I don't have as good a screen. However, if we do see it, it's magnitude 16 lenticular, so it's probably a 15th magnitude, 0.4 by 0.2 arc minute size galaxy, 223632 with a declination of plus 33 degrees, 47 minutes, 44 seconds. This galaxy group is starting to look familiar, but I do not think it's Stephan's Quintet. All right, we're going to push on. I'm going to describe the next galaxy, NGC7320b. Also a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 15.6, but edgy on, 0.6 by 0.2 arc minutes. 277 million light years distant, so this is definitely a line-of-sight galaxy. Right ascension 22 hours, 37 minutes, 28 seconds, with a declination of plus 33 degrees, 55 minutes, 22 seconds. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to increase the exposure time on this group. NGC 7320c, also a galaxy in Pegasus, is magnitude 15.5, but since it's a spiral with a bar and a half removed from lenticular, it's probably somewhere around 14.5, 14.6. Spiral with a bar, lenticular A with a ring, 268 million light years distant, also quite small, probably somewhere around 30,000 light years. RA 223620 with a declination of plus 33 degrees, 59 minutes, and 6 seconds. Now, our next thing is to see what these babies look like at 1 minute exposure time. Let's give it a shot. Okay, here we have a 60-second exposure on the NGC 7320 Galaxy group. Pushing the magnification up a little bit. We are getting a little distension in the stars, but we'll have to tolerate that. We're at a 60-second exposure. It hasn't done a stack yet. It says stack 2, ignored 0, so that may have to do with the 10-second exposure time. It may have incorporated the stack, but we're seeing distension in the stars. I'm going to let this go ahead and play out for the next 13 seconds. We'll see the next stack. I will point out that there is a fifth galaxy located right there that's visible, but it's probably may or may not be part of the group. I'm going to make a quick adjustment in the histogram, the lower setting, and I'm going to brighten it up just a wee bit, and that is our view of the NGC7320 galaxy group at 60 seconds exposure time. Not bad. This ain't it. What we're looking for here is NGC7325, a galaxy in Pegasus. I believe I know that that galaxy is probably 7317. I may have skipped over it. We should be seeing a 16.1 magnitude galaxy, 375 million light years distant. We can assume that it's probably somewhere around magnitude 15.2 or 3. There's no specification as to its Hubble Stavicularis galaxy morphology. It's at right ascension 22, 36, 34 with a declination of plus 34 degrees, 30 minutes, and 5 seconds. So I will play with the histogram just to brighten things up a little bit in order to make this galaxy out. We should be viewing at, well, we were probably at 90x at 30%. Maybe somewhere in this region here, be kind of hard to figure out. But let's go and see if we can turn up. I think this is 7317. Maybe I'll backtrack to that. Okay, I bet you that one, the nice edge-on Galaxy 7327. See, it wasn't 17. What we have here is NGC 7323 Galaxy Pegasus 12.9. I selected it because it has a ring. 1.4 by 1.1 arc minute spiral with a lowercase b, multiple spiral arms, 253 million light years distant, puts it about 100,000 light years in diameter. We're not making out much until we push the magnification. And even then, we are not getting particularly good views. I'm a little disappointed in the views tonight. I think I'll reinitiate the stack on this one. If we have a galaxy here, it is this one right there. Doesn't have much of a core, a little brightening, fading out, possibly a ring. Does seem to have a frontier. That's NGC 7323 in Pegasus. Okay, the mounts all over the place tonight. Here we're seeing NGC 7328, and I'm not going to take the time to redo the modeling. It's a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.1, 2 by 0.7 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase ab, 128 million light years distant, maybe 75,000 light years in diameter. Right ascension 22, 37, 29, declination plus 10 degrees, 31, 54. It isn't Easter, but we're having to go on an Easter egg hunt to find these galaxies on the field of view. Okay, we found our mystery galaxy. I misremembered the designation. It's 7331. All right, I'm going to give you some data, and then we're going to push the exposure times up. Galaxy in Pegasus, 9.5 magnitude, 10.2 by 4.2. Surprising that it didn't turn out to be a Messier, but I have to do the average brightness. That's an awful high, low magnitude average surface brightness. I mean, high in terms of number, but low in terms of brightness. So spiral with a bar, lowercase c, 46 million light years distance, as large as Messier 31 at 150,000 light years. RA 223704 with a declination of plus 34 degrees, 24 minutes, 57 seconds. Our premier view probably for the evening. NGC 7331. Okay, what we're seeing here is an unadjusted histogram view of NGC 7331. 60 seconds exposure time. It's got a nice neighboring edge-on galaxy right there nearby. As I bring the histogram down, washing out, eliminating some of the washout, you can see the galaxy is now displaying plenty of texture in it. What a beautiful view. So we'll take it up to a higher magnification, drop it down to balance out the view a little bit, And this is our view, and I will give you the data once again as soon as I look it up. But let's see if we get a second stack on this.
What is this thing called love?
It says stacked 2, ignored 0, so this is our second view. This is quite spectacular. I just love it, so I have no doubt you do too. 60-second exposure, eyepiece-wise, but low magnification, the equivalent of about a 95-inch scope. So if you were looking through the Mount Wilson scope, you would get a view similar to this, but much punched out in terms of magnification. Since we're only operating at this point at 150x, which is 1 millimeter exit pupil, but we're going to back it out to get a better view of sharpness in this galaxy. So we're probably operating somewhere around 90x, or 60 at 20 and 90 at 30% e-zoom. I've got 20 minutes into this video now. I'm going to start hop, skipping, and jumping to see if anything else turns up of note. And then we're going to carpe out. Couldn't resist this. At least 2 galaxies of interest, probably more. The one I selected is NGC7300-7399. Let's see if we can figure out which one it is. Galaxy Pegasus, magnitude 12.2, 2.8 by 0.7 arc minutes. Spiral with a bar and a lowercase bc. That should tell you right there. 59 million light years distant, so not much more than 30,000 light years in diameter. Right ascension 22:37:47 with a declination of 23 degrees, 47 minutes, 11 seconds. Now, I'm sure its neighbor is going to be on my list. Let's see if we can just go ahead and stay with this image for the time being. 7340 is a magnitude 2234. It's probably in there somewhere, 7340. Let's do a hop to it. Nope, it's a long ways away. I'll have to figure this out by consulting with Steve Gottlieb on the morrow. Okay, I'm not going to give you the data, but NGC 7340 is that second galaxy that popped into 7331's field of view. And we got a better view of it at 60 seconds exposure time. This is probably the faintest galaxy of the evening, and we're looking for it here. Probably have to track it down using Steve Gottlieb's description, if he has it. NGC 7370 is a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 16.4, 0.5 by 0.2 arc minutes. So look for something that might be a little sliver-like. RA 22 hours, 45 minutes, 37 seconds, but the declination is fairly south. Plus 11 degrees, 3 minutes, 26 seconds. Puts it a little bit outside the sky's middle third. Let's just push the magnification up and then drop it back down again. And there does seem to be something vaguish off to the left. So let's push it back out and then knock off with that. Okay, what we're looking for here, most everything's been tracking off to the left. NGC 7375, galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 14.9, 0.8 by 0.6 arc minutes. It's a class A, so that means it's probably around magnitude 14.1, since that's probably photographic. 308 million light years distant, right ascension 22:46:32, and a declination in the sky's middle third of 21 degrees, 5 minutes, and Z seconds. Well, I'll tell you, the galaxy we're looking for is not this one. It's going to be over here in this screen somewhere, and I'll tell you why. This is the faintest galaxy and the smallest that I've seen, noticed yet. NGC 7388 is a galaxy in Pegasus. Magnitude 17. 0.2 by 0.2 arc minute elliptical. No distance. RA 22 hours, 50 minutes, 20 seconds with a declination of plus 11 degrees, 44 minutes, and 6 seconds. Obviously, given the fact that it's so faint, why don't we push it? Okay, what we're seeing here is clearly a galaxy. We've stacked one at 30 seconds. Now we're looking for a second one. And there we go. So that's clearly a galaxy there. Now, because we're at 30 seconds, we're basically operating at something that's close to 50 inches in aperture. However, once again, it's magnitude 17. It's elliptical, which means it's probably magnitude 15.5 visual. And yes, I would agree that at 30 seconds exposure time with the ZWO system on a 6-inch refractor, that's about what I'd expect to see. We just had another pass. So what I can do is play just a little bit to improve the aesthetics. And there is our view of at least 2 galaxies in the field of view. Moving on. Okay, how about a 2-minute exposure of a galaxy group? Now, I've been searching around trying to find the designation of the Helix Nebula to go out on. And while I did so, I set the ZWO imager up to stack twice now, 240 seconds of exposure on that 16th magnitude galaxy, and it certainly seems to have a lot of friends here. I'm going to go ahead and do one step in for zoom, and I'm going to allow it to continue to stack until I find the NGC designation of the Helix, and I believe it was 7200, but it hadn't turned up when I went step through it. So let this go ahead and do another stack of 120 seconds with nice round stars. 2 stacked, 1 ignored at 120 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and pick something out because, frankly, the Helix Nebula hasn't popped up on the handset. And I ran through the 7200 series and the 7100. That's just the way it plays. Well, we can always go out on this particular study at this time of year. This is a 10-second exposure of the great Andromeda galaxy. I'm going to set up the histogram for the optimal view. We can just make out the second dark lane at 10 seconds. Let's see what else we can do with it. I can make the lane disappear, but sharpen up the galaxy. Okay, there's probably the best view. So let's break and push it to 30 seconds now. And we now have our 30-second view of Messier 31. Lots of nice texture in the lane and within the spiral itself. You can see there's a lot of star formation. I believe both our galaxy and Messier 31 are SAB types. So still a lot of star formation going on within them. How about we push it to a 120-second view and see what we get. Here we have our 2-minute view before I start mucking around with the histogram. I'm going to slide the bottom one over a little bit to the right, darkening the background sky, and I can push the right one over further, but I thought where it ended up was pretty good. There we have a 60x view of roughly 40 arc minutes, because it's going diagonally across the screen, of Messier 31. And I think, obviously, you don't want to put a whole lot of magnification on this. Now, I have to point out, this is a 2-minute exposure, stacked twice already. So, despite the fact Go2 has not worked very well this evening, tracking has. So I'll have to probably build another model the next time I go out. Hopefully that'll be tomorrow night. I do want to mention conditions tonight. They're not as good as they were last night. I can barely make out the Milky Way's whiteness and no sense whatsoever of dark obscuration nebula in Cygnus, which is pretty much culminating straight over my head at 8:22 p.m. on the 15th of October 2025. We have 30 more seconds before we get potentially a third stack of a 2-minute exposure currently at 240 seconds. Now, one thing I did remember off the Rev 2 system, it threw up images instantly and you started to see them develop on the screen. That is not the way the ZWO imager works. You don't get to see anything until it finally finishes a stack. And there is our beauteous view of Messier 31, our great neighbor in space, who's waltzing towards, as we speak, towards the Milky Way galaxy, even as it walks its way towards the Andromeda galaxy. 3 to 4 billion years from now, they will touch hands and go into the tango dance. Carpe Noctem.